Welcome to the Weekly Roar, coming live from the Lion's Den, helping new managers become great leaders and awesome bosses. And now, here's your host, Greg Storch.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lion's Den. This is the Weekly Roar. It's great to have you back this week in the Lion's Den. I am saddened by the news that one of my favorite leaders, retired General Collin Powell, passed away on Monday. It really got me thinking about how some people just really stand out as great leaders. Today, on the Weekly Roar, I'll dedicate my time to Collin Powell's leadership primer. But before we jump into that, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Greg Storch, owner of Lion Enterprise, host of the Weekly Roar, and the founder of a worldwide bartered coaching program called The Helping Hand. I'm a certified professional leadership coach and a certified leadership speaker and trainer. And as a friendly reminder, you can find all of my video resources on my website at lion-enterprise.com. Just look for the Lion's Pride Library and check them all out. All right, it's time to talk about Collin Powell's leadership primer. Many years ago, I was given a copy of a PowerPoint presentation called Collin Powell's leadership primer. Over the years, I've gone back to it to read it again and again. It's an interesting read because many of the things he spoke about were unconventional given the positions that he held. So today on the Weekly Roar, I want to share the statements that he made in that slide deck. There were a total of 18 lessons in leadership that he spoke about, and this is what he had to say about each one of them. Lesson 1, being responsible sometimes means pissing people off. Good leadership involves responsibility to the welfare of the group, which means that some people will get angry at your actions and decisions. It's inevitable if you're honorable. Trying to get everyone to like you is a sign of mediocrity. You'll avoid the tough decisions. You'll avoid confronting the people who need to be confronted. And you'll avoid offering differential rewards based on differential performance because some people might get upset. Ironically, by procrastinating on the difficult choices, by trying not to get anyone mad, and by treating everyone equally nicely, regardless of their contributions, you'll simply ensure that the only people you'll wind up angering are the most creative and productive people in the organization. Lesson 2, the day soldiers stop bringing you their problems is the day you have stopped leading them. They have either lost confidence that you can help them or concluded that you don't care. Either case is a failure of leadership. If this were a litmus test, the majority of CEOs would fail. 1, they build so many barriers to upward communication that the very idea of someone lower in the hierarchy looking up to the leader for help is ludicrous. 2, the corporate culture they foster often defines asking for help as weakness or failure. So people cover up their gaps and the organization suffers accordingly. Real leaders make themselves accessible and available. They show concern for the efforts and challenges faced by underlings, even as they demand high standards. Accordingly, they are more likely to create an environment where problem analysis replaces blame. Lesson 3, don't be buffaloed by the experts and elites. Experts often possess more data than judgment. Elites can become so inbred that they produce hemophiliacs who bleed to death as soon as they're nicked by the real world. Small companies and startups don't have the time for analytically detached experts. They don't have the money to subsidize lofty elites either. The president answers the phone and drives the truck when necessary. Everyone on the payroll visibly produces and contributes to the bottom line results or their history. But as companies get bigger, they often forget who, quote, brung them to the dance. Things like all hands involvement, egalitarianism, informality, market intimacy, daring, risk, speed, and agility. Policies that emanate from ivory towers often have an adverse impact on the people out in the field who are fighting the wars or bringing in the revenues. Real leaders are vigilant and combative in the face of those trends. Lesson 4, don't be afraid to challenge the pros, even in their own backyard. Learn from the pros, observe them, seek them out as mentors and partners. But remember that even the pros may have leveled out in terms of their learning and skills. Sometimes even the pros can become complacent and lazy. Leadership doesn't emerge from blind obedience to anyone. Xerox's Barry Rand was right on target when he warned his people that if you have a yes man working for you, one of you is redundant. Good leadership encourages everyone's evolution. Lesson number 5, never neglect details. When everyone's mind is dulled or distracted, the leader must be doubly vigilant. Strategy equals execution. All the great ideas and visions in the world are worthless if they can't be implemented rapidly and efficiently. Good leaders delegate and empower others liberally, but they pay attention to details every day. Bad ones, even those who fancy themselves as progressive visionaries, think they're somehow above operational details. Paradoxically, good leaders understand something else. An obsessive routine in carrying out the details begets conformity and complacency, which in turn dulls everyone's mind. That's why, even as they pay attention to details, they continually encourage people to challenge the process. They implicitly understand the sentiment of CEO leaders like Audicon's Lars Koland and the late Bill McGowan of MCI, who all independently asserted that the job of a leader is not to be the chief organizer, but the chief disorganizer. Lesson number 6, you don't know what you can get away with until you try. You know the expression, it's easier to get forgiveness than permission? Well, it's true. Good leaders don't wait for official blessing to try things out. They're prudent, not reckless. But they also realize a fact of life in most organizations. If you ask enough people for permission, you'll inevitably come up against someone who believes his job is to say no. So the moral is, don't ask. I'm serious. In my own research with colleague Linda Mukai, we found that less effective middle managers endorsed the sentiment, if I haven't explicitly been told yes, I can't do it. Whereas the good leaders believed, if I haven't explicitly been told no, then I can do it. There's a world of difference between those 2 points of view. Lesson number 7, keep looking below surface appearances. Don't shrink from doing so just because you might not like what you find. If it ain't broke, don't fix it is the slogan of the complacent, the arrogant, or the scared. It's an excuse for inaction. It's a call to non-arms. It's a mindset that assumes or hopes that today's realities will continue tomorrow in a tidy, linear, and predictable fashion. Pure fantasy. In this sort of culture, you won't find people who proactively take steps to solve problems as they emerge. Here's a little tip. Don't invest in these companies. Lesson number 8. Organization doesn't really accomplish anything. Plans don't accomplish anything either. Theories of management don't much matter. Endeavors succeed or fail because of the people involved. Only by attracting the best people will you accomplish great deeds. In a brain-based economy, your best assets are people. We've heard this expression so often that it's become trite. But how many leaders really walk the talk with this stuff? Too often, people are assumed to be empty chess pieces to be moved around, which may explain why so many top managers immerse their calendar time in deal making, restructuring, and the latest management fad. How many leaders immerse themselves in the goal of creating an environment where the best, the brightest, the most creative are attracted, retained, and most importantly, unleashed? Lesson number 9. Organization charts and hence titles count for next to nothing. Organization charts are frozen, anachronistic photos in a workplace that ought to be as dynamic as the external environment around you. If people really followed organization charts, companies would collapse. In well-run organizations, titles are also pretty meaningless. At best, they advertise some authority, an official status conferring the ability to give orders and induce obedience. But titles mean little in terms of real power, which is the capacity to influence and inspire. Have you ever noticed that people will personally commit to certain individuals who, on paper or on the org chart, possess little authority, but instead possess pizzazz, drive, expertise, and genuine caring for teammates and products? On the flip side, non-leaders in management may be formally anointed with all the perks and frills associated with high positions, but they have little influence on others, apart from their ability to extract minimal compliance to minimal standards. Here's lesson number 10. Never let your ego get so close to your position that when your position goes, your ego goes with it. Too often, change is stifled by people who cling to familiar turfs and job descriptions. One reason that even large organizations wither is that managers won't challenge old, comfortable ways of doing things. But real leaders understand that nowadays, every one of our jobs is becoming obsolete. The proper response is to obsolete our activities before someone else does. Effective leaders create a climate where People's worth is determined by their willingness to learn new skills and grab new responsibilities, thus perpetually reinventing their jobs. The most important question in performance evaluations becomes not how well did you perform your job since the last time we met, but how much did you change it? Lesson number 11, fit no stereotypes. Don't chase the latest management fads. The situation dictates which approach best accomplishes the team's mission. Flitting from fad to fad creates team confusion. It reduces the leader's credibility and it drains the organizational coffers. Blindly following a particular fad generates rigidity in thought and in action. Sometimes speed to market is more important than total quality. Sometimes an unapologetic directive is more appropriate than participatory discussion. Some situations require the leader to hover closely. Others require long, loose leashes. Leaders honor their core values, but they're flexible in how they execute them. They understand that management techniques are not magic mantras, but simply tools to be reached for at the right times. Lesson number 12, perpetual optimism is a force multiplier. The ripple effect of a leader's enthusiasm and optimism is awesome. So is the impact of cynicism and pessimism. Leaders who whine and blame engender those same behaviors among their colleagues. I'm not talking about stoically accepting organizational stupidity and performance incompetence with a "what, me worry" smile. I'm talking about a gung-ho attitude that says, we can change things here. We can achieve awesome goals. We can be the best. Spare me the grim litany of the realist. Give me the unrealistic aspirations of the optimist any day. Lesson number 13, Powell's rules for picking people. Look for intelligence and judgment, and most critically, a capacity to anticipate, to see around corners. Also, look for loyalty, integrity, a high energy drive, a balanced ego, and the drive to get things done. How often do our recruitment and hiring processes tap into those attributes? More often than not, we ignore them in favor of length of resume, degrees, and prior titles. A string of job descriptions a recruit held yesterday seemed to be more important than who one is today, what she can contribute tomorrow, or how well his values mesh with those of the organization. You can train a bright, willing novice in the fundamentals of your business fairly readily, but it's a lot harder to train someone to have integrity, judgment, energy, balance, and the drive to get things done. Good leaders stack the deck in their favor right in the recruitment phase. Lesson number 14. Great leaders are almost always great simplifiers who can cut through argument, debate, and doubt to offer a solution that everybody can understand. Effective leaders understand the KISS principle, or keep it simple, stupid. They articulate vivid, overarching goals and values, which they use to drive daily behaviors and choices among competing alternatives. Their visions and priorities are lean and compelling, not cluttered and buzzword laden. Their decisions are crisp and clear, not tentative and ambiguous. They convey an unwavering firmness and consistency in their actions, aligned with the picture of the future they paint. The result? Clarity of purpose, credibility of leadership, and integrity in the organization. Lesson number 15. Part 1. Use the formula P equals 40 to 70, in which P stands for the probability of success, and the numbers indicate the percentage of information acquired. Part 2. Once the information is in the 40 to 70 range, go with your gut. Don't take action if you have only enough information to give you less than a 40% chance of being right. But don't wait until you have enough facts to be 100% sure, because by then it is almost always too late. Today, excessive delays in the name of information gathering leads to analysis paralysis. Procrastination in the name of reducing risk actually increases risk. Lesson number 16. The commander in the field is always right, and the rear echelon is wrong, unless proved otherwise. Too often, the reverse defines corporate culture. This is one of the main reasons why leaders like Ken Iverson of Nucor Steel and Richard Branson of Virgin have kept their corporate staffs to a bare bones minimum. Shift the power and the financial accountability to the folks who are bringing in the beans, not the ones who are counting or analyzing them. Lesson 17. Have fun in your command. Don't always run at a breakneck pace. Take leave when you've earned it. Spend time with your families. Now, all that was in military jargon. Let me turn it into civilian speak. Have fun in your leadership. Don't always run at a breakneck pace. Take time off when you've earned it. Spend time with your families. The corollary: surround yourself with people who take their work seriously, but not themselves. Those who work hard and play hard. Herb Kelleher of Southwest Airlines and Anita Roddick of The Body Shop agree. Seek people who have some balance in their lives, who are fun to hang out with, who like to laugh at themselves too, and who have some non-job priorities which they approach with the same passion that they do their work. Spare me the grim workaholic or the pompous, pretentious professional. I'll help them find jobs with my competitor. And here it is, the last one, lesson number 18 from Collin Powell's Leadership Primer. Command is lonely. Harry Truman was right. Whether you're a CEO or the temporary head of a project team, the buck stops there. You can encourage participative management and bottom-up employee involvement, but ultimately, the essence of leadership is the willingness to make the tough, unambiguous choices that will have an impact on the fate of the entire organization. I've seen too many non-leaders flinch from this responsibility. Even as you create an informal, open, collaborative corporate culture, prepare to be lonely. Whether you're just starting out in leadership or you've been at it for a while, these leadership lessons will give you miles on your journey. Collin Powell was a former U.S. Secretary of State and a 4-star general in the Army. His career was marked by firsts. He was the first and only Black officer to become chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the first Black man to become Secretary of State. He's what I would call the leader's leader. On Monday, retired General Collin Powell died of complications from COVID-19 at age 84. And so I dedicate today's weekly roar in his memory. Thank you for taking the road less traveled, paving the way for others, and sharing your insights on leadership with the world. I'm a better leader because of it. With that said, I leave you with one last favorite quote of mine from General Powell, who said, "If you're going to achieve excellence in big things, you develop the habit in little matters." All right. I hope you enjoyed today's weekly roar. Thank you all for supporting me and joining me in the lion's den as I took a trip down memory lane and reflected on some great leadership lessons that were left behind from Collin Powell. If you want to keep running to the roar, then join me again next week. All you have to do is just come on back to the Lion's Den next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for supporting me and watching the weekly roar today. I appreciate all of you. And until we meet again next Wednesday, remember, be powerful, but stay poised, just like a lion. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roar live event at lionenterprise.com. If you enjoyed this video, please tell others to join us each week here in the Lion's Den. Thanks again, and see you next week.